Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us. Look, if you've been following global tech or auto news lately, you've probably heard just absolute endless hype about the electric vehicle revolution, right? Well, today we are completely bypassing all that global noise. Instead, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We want to look at the tangible, grounded reality of the EVs that are literally on the ground and available in Africa today. We're cutting through the hype to see what's really happening.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's the ultimate question, isn't it? If you're living in an emerging market, you might be looking at EVs and wondering, are electric cars even practical in Africa right now? Like, is the infrastructure actually there? Can regular people afford them? Can they handle the chaotic daily commute? Today, we're going to answer exactly that by exploring the hard data and the specific cars navigating African roads right this second.
Here's a quick roadmap for us today. First, we'll look at Africa's emerging EV market. Then we'll check out top urban commuters, and follow that up with luxury and SUV EV options. After that, we'll break down the key challenges and roadblocks, and finally, wrap things up with the road ahead.
All right, Part 1, Africa's emerging EV market.
When you zoom out and look at the global landscape, it's absolutely true that the African EV market is, well, it's still in its early stages, especially compared to the explosive adoption we're seeing over in Europe or the US. But hey, make no mistake, there is some genuine, rapidly growing momentum here. The idea is spreading like wildfire. We're seeing a very real surge of early adoption, particularly concentrated in major economic and tech hubs. We're talking places like South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. The market is definitely waking up.
Moving on to Part 2, top urban commuter EVs. These are your practical, everyday city rides. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing the actual 4 to 5-seater urban options realistically available to buyers right now across places like South Africa, Morocco, and Kenya. You've got totally reliable global staples like the Nissan Leaf, right? It gives you a solid 270 to 385 kilometer range for somewhere between 700 and 900,000 Rand, plus it charges on AC in about 6 to 8 hours. Then, if you step up a bit, say to around 750K, the BMW i3 brings a premium motor with a 4 to 6 hour AC charge. Or, for around 600,000 Rand, the Renault Zoe offers fantastic range, though it takes a bit longer, around 9 to 10 hours on AC.
Let's zoom in on that BMW i3 for a second. On paper, it has a slightly lower range, between 260 and 310 kilometers from its 42.2 kilowatt-hour battery, and yeah, notoriously small cabin and cargo space. You might think, well, that's a huge downside. But actually, for a dense African urban environment, it's kind of a secret weapon. Its lightweight carbon fiber construction makes it incredibly efficient, and that compact size means it's an absolute joy for tight city navigation and parking. It's a really fun, premium driving experience, even if, admittedly, it takes a hit on resale value once you get outside those major metro centers.
Now, on the completely other end of the commuter spectrum, we've got the Renault Zoe. The Zoe absolutely lacks the luxury finish of the BMW, and honestly, its slower acceleration means it's not really built for long, fast highway trips. But get a load of that range. Roughly 395 kilometers on a single charge from its 52 kilowatt-hour battery. When you combine that endurance with its compact footprint, its relative affordability around 600K Rand, and super low maintenance needs, the Zoe firmly cements itself as the ultimate daily commute champion.
All right, Section 3, Luxury and SUV EV Options. Let's look at the heavy hitters.
To really understand the extremes of the 5-seater market here, we need to contrast two vastly different vehicles. On one hand, you have the MG ZS EV. This is a much more accessible SUV, around 600,000 Rand. It's got a 44.5 kilowatt-hour battery, a 105 kilowatt motor, a 263 kilometer range, and takes about 6 to 8 hours on a home AC charge. Pretty standard. But if you want to go absolutely all out, there's the Jaguar I-PACE. For a whopping 1.6 million Rand, you get a luxury beast. It boasts a massive 90 kilowatt-hour battery and a 470 kilometer range.
though, because that battery is so gigantic, you're looking at a 10 to 12-hour AC charge at home.
And guys, just look at this number, 4.8 seconds. That is literally how fast the Jaguar I-PACE hits 100 kilometers per hour. Thanks to its 294 kilowatt all-wheel drive dual motor setup, it is blistering fast. I think it's pretty safe to say this dual motor beast will leave those sensible, highly practical daily commuters we just talked about completely in the dust at the next traffic light.
So, the crucial point is, we do have to bring reality back into the picture. Yes, going 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds is incredibly fun, but a 1.6 million rand price tag restricts this car to a tiny fraction of buyers. Plus, high-end parts mean exorbitant maintenance costs if anything goes wrong, and regardless of that impressive 470-kilometer range, a vehicle like this is still severely limited by the local charging infrastructure, which is actually a perfect segue into our next topic.
Section 4. Key challenges and roadblocks. Let's look at the systemic hurdles. When you really dig into the data, 4 main themes consistently pop up as massive, systemic roadblocks that are actively preventing mass EVA adoption across the continent right now. We're looking at the infrastructure gap, the cost barrier, a sheer lack of government incentives, and the harsh reality of urban use limitation. Let's break these down to understand the friction here.
First and foremost, we have to talk about the infrastructure gap. Public EV charging stations are just not evenly distributed at all. They are heavily concentrated in just 3 main areas: South Africa, Morocco, and Kenya. If you're living outside of these specific regions, access is severely limited. This means taking a long road trip in a model like that MG ZS EV we saw, with its moderate 263-kilometer range, is essentially impractical, if not impossible, in most parts of the continent right now. You just can't guarantee you'll find a place to plug it in. And then, of course, we face the harsh financial realities. In most African nations, steep import duties make EVs significantly more expensive right out of the gate compared to your standard internal combustion gas cars. And compounding this is a near total lack of state help. Aside from some specific initiatives in South Africa, most nations offer absolutely minimal, if any, government subsidies. That places the entire financial burden squarely on the shoulders of the early adopter.
Finally, Section 5. The road ahead. Where does this all leave us? When you put it all together, the physical limitations of the cars themselves, like the shorter ranges on the affordable models, combined with the glaring infrastructure gap and those steep upfront costs, a very clear picture emerges. If there's one key takeaway you grab from this whole explainer, it's that the current African EV reality is fundamentally an urban reality. Right now, vehicles like the Renault Zoe or the BMW i3 make profound sense for a daily commute within the borders of a major city, where you can charge up at home and easily navigate tight streets. But the second you try to take these vehicles on long inner-city journeys, the ecosystem just isn't there yet to support you.
And that leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder. Will the charging infrastructure and government policies catch up to make long-distance EV travel a real possibility across the continent, or are electric vehicles going to remain a specialized city luxury for the foreseeable future? It's a fascinating systemic hurdle, and how governments and private companies respond is going to dictate the entire future of transportation in Africa. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this today, and hey, keep asking those big questions.